The Sweet Spot Bakery in downtown Miami was just about to close when Ethan Miller, CEO of a multinational tech firm accustomed to solving any problem with money, rushed in desperately with his 3-year-old daughter in his arms. That night, he faced something money couldn't buy: his daughter's broken heart. Little Lily had only one birthday wish, that her mommy would be there, but her mommy had died 2 years ago. When he saw Claire Adams, the baker who was preparing the birthday cake, something hit him like a lightning bolt. She looked incredibly like his deceased wife. The same smile, the same brown hair, the same sweetness in her eyes. In 30 seconds, Ethan made the craziest decision of his life. He approached the stranger and asked her the absolutely impossible. Could she pretend to be his wife for 7 days? Just for the week of Lily's birthday. What neither of them knew was that this desperate plea would change both their lives forever. Because sometimes the most impossible coincidences hide the deepest destinies. If this story has piqued your interest, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us what city you're watching us from. Let's continue. I promise you, this is going to be the best story you will ever hear. Charleston, South Carolina. The sweet sea breeze accompanied yet another warm evening at the Sugar Blossom Bakery, a small establishment in the heart of the historic district. It was almost 7 p.m., and Claire Adams was getting ready to lock up. Her 29 years already carried a lifetime of dedication to the art she inherited from her grandma Eleanor. The charming, vintage mosaic-tiled walls bore witness to the stories of 3 generations of women who transformed sugar into dreams. Claire dried her hands on her white apron while organizing the last details. Her solitary life was summed up in that small, sugary world. Not that she was unhappy, but something always seemed to be missing. Perhaps the same secret ingredient Grandma Eleanor insisted was essential in any recipe: love. The doorbell snapped her out of her thoughts. A tall man in an impeccable suit and with a worn look rushed in. "I apologize for the intrusion. I know you're closing, but I came to pick up the cake I ordered." "Name, Henry Thompson." Claire consulted her order book. "Ah, yes. The cake for Lily, 3 years old." She smiled. "I'll go get it right away." When Claire returned from the kitchen carrying the delicate creation, a cake covered in light pink frosting with small sugar butterflies, she noticed something strange. The man was staring at her as if he'd seen a ghost, completely immobile. "Mr. Thompson? Is everything all right?" Henry Thompson, 38, CEO of one of the largest tech companies in the Southeast, couldn't articulate a word. His eyes, usually secure and determined, were glistening. The man who commanded meetings with dozens of executives now seemed utterly vulnerable. "What? What is your name?" he finally asked, his voice hoarse. Claire Adams." The executive took a deep breath, trying to regain his composure. "Forgive my reaction, but you are incredibly similar to someone I knew." Claire nodded, already used to that kind of comment. She had a common face, they said. "No problem. Here is your daughter's cake. I hope she likes it." Just then, the back door of the bakery opened, and a woman in her 50s appeared with a sleeping child in her arms. "Mr. Thompson, I apologize for interrupting, but Lily dozed off while we were waiting in the car. I thought it best to bring her in." Claire observed the little girl. Curly brown hair framed a delicate face. She wore a light yellow dress and tightly hugged a well-worn rag doll. She looked like an angel. "Thank you, Maria," Henry replied, taking his daughter into his arms. "Let's go home now." It was then that the baker noticed something that broke her heart. A small photo frame on the cell phone the man was holding showed a smiling woman, a woman who indeed could have been her twin sister. Henry noticed Claire's gaze and, in a desperate impulse, decided to do something he never imagined. "Ms. Adams, I know you will think this is utterly insane, but I need to speak with you. It's important. Could I come back tomorrow before the shop opens?" The desperate sincerity in his request made her agree, despite her hesitation. "All right. I open at 8 a.m., but I can get here by 7 a.m. I'll be here at 7 a.m. sharp." "Thank you." Claire couldn't sleep properly that night. Something about the man's expression disturbed her. The memory of the sleeping little girl also wouldn't leave her mind. The next morning, promptly at 7 a.m., Henry Thompson parked his imported car in front of the bakery. He wore more casual clothes, but his face remained haggard, with deep circles under his eyes. Claire welcomed him with a strong cup of coffee. "Good morning, Mr. Thompson. Please call me Henry." They sat at a small table in the back of the shop. The man took several deep breaths before starting. "Claire, my wife Camille, left us 2 years ago. A sudden aneurysm." He swallowed hard. "Lily was only 1 when it happened." Claire nodded in silence, feeling the weight of the revelation. Since then, I've tried to be the best father possible, but there's a void I can't fill. Lily asks about her mom every day. He rummaged in his pocket and pulled out a photograph. This is Camille. The baker felt a chill upon seeing the image. The resemblance truly was striking. The same face shape, the expressive eyes, even the smile seemed identical to hers. Next week is Lily's birthday. And do you know what her only request was? I want Mommy to come to my party. Henry ran a hand over his face, trying to contain his emotion. When I saw you yesterday, it was like seeing Camille again. The same sweetness in your eyes, the same smile. Claire began to understand where the conversation was heading and felt a knot in her stomach. I know what I'm about to propose is completely insane, he continued, but I'm desperate. Would you be willing to pretend to be Camille for a week? Just for Lily's birthday week. I can pay $100,000. The shock made Claire knock over her coffee cup, spilling liquid all over the table. What? No, that's crazy. It's unethical, cruel, and simply impossible to deceive a child like that, only to abandon her again afterwards. Have you lost your mind? Henry lowered his gaze, ashamed. I know. It's a terrible request. But I watch my daughter wither away every day. She doesn't smile like she used to. She doesn't play. The child psychologist says she's experiencing childhood depression. I'm so sorry, but I can't accept. Please, leave. The executive stood up, defeated. As he was about to leave, his cell phone rang. It was Maria, the nanny. Lily had another nightmare about her mother. She's been crying nonstop for half an hour, the voice on the other end informed him. Claire watched the despair spread across the man's face as he tried to calm his daughter over the phone. Daddy is coming home now, princess. Don't cry. Mommy is watching over you from heaven. His hands were trembling as he hung up the phone. The look of a father completely devastated by not being able to give his daughter the one thing she wanted most in the world. I apologize for disturbing you. Thank you for your time. When he was already at the door, Claire felt something inexplicable, a compassion that made her act against all her reason. Wait! Henry turned, surprised. I didn't say I'd agree to this madness, but perhaps we can talk more about it. Think of some alternative that won't hurt your daughter so much. A thread of hope illuminated the man's tired face. How about dinner at my house tonight? Lily will be asleep. We can discuss it calmly. Claire hesitated. She was stepping into dangerous territory, but something inside her, perhaps the same compassion that led her grandmother to open the bakery doors to people in need during the big storm of 1975, prevented her from simply turning her back. All right, but I promise nothing. That night, after closing the bakery, Claire drove her small sedan to the address Henry had given her. She was impressed when she arrived at the exclusive seaside neighborhood. The Thompsons' mansion had a privileged view of the ocean. A visibly curious Maria welcomed her at the door. Mr. Thompson is waiting for you in the study. This way, please. As she walked through the corridors of the imposing house, Claire noticed the numerous family portraits. In almost all of them, she saw the woman who could be her reflection in the mirror, always smiling beside Henry, and in some recent ones, with little Lily. In the study, Henry was waiting for her with a calmer expression. Thank you for coming. Would you like to see Lily before we talk? The proposal caught her by surprise. I don't know if that's appropriate. She's sleeping. You don't need to worry. Following Henry to the girl's room, Claire's heart clenched upon seeing the room, all decorated in shades of lavender and white. Lily slept hugging the same worn-out rag doll. More photos of Camille were on the walls. She keeps asking when Mommy will return from heaven, Henry whispered. I try to explain that it's not possible, but she's too young to understand finality. Back in the study, Henry served a red wine and began to present his proposal in more detail. I don't want you to explicitly pretend to be Camille. You could be introduced as a special friend, letting Lily draw her own conclusions. Claire shook her head, still incredulous. And after? When I disappear from her life after a week? Have you thought about the trauma that will cause? We could say you had to go on a trip. Something a 3-year-old could comprehend. The baker sighed, analyzing the entire scenario. It was an absurd proposal, and yet there was something about the situation that deeply moved her. Perhaps because she had never known her own mother who died in childbirth, she well understood the pain of that absence. And note that I'm only hypothetically considering this. If I accepted, I would have to close my bakery for a week. I would cover all losses, of course. Claire looked intently at a photo of Lily on the desk. Let me think about it tonight. I'll give you a definitive answer tomorrow. Upon leaving the mansion, Claire drove to the beach and walked barefoot in the sand, letting the seawater touch her feet. The waves seemed to whisper the same question repeatedly. What are you going to do? On one hand, her mind screamed how absurd the proposal was. On the other, her heart broke thinking of that child crying for the mother she would never see again. As the stars bore witness to her anguish, Claire made a decision that would change her life forever. The next morning brought the same sea breeze that rustled the palm trees along the seaside avenue, but for Claire, nothing felt the same. As she opened the bakery, her hands trembled slightly. She never imagined facing such a complex decision. Her employee, Mrs. Jenkins, noticed immediately that something was wrong. Girl, you look awful. Did something happen? Claire forced a smile. Nothing, Mrs. Jenkins. I just didn't sleep well. How could she explain the insane proposal she had received? How could she justify that she was actually considering accepting it? At 10 o'clock, the doorbell announced Henry's arrival. He looked even more tired than the day before, with deep circles under his eyes that betrayed a sleepless night. Good morning, Claire. I hope I'm not interrupting. We can talk in the back. In the small room behind the kitchen, Claire offered him a coffee, which Henry gratefully accepted. I thought a lot about your proposal, she began, clasping her hands on the table. It's crazy. Complete insanity. Henry lowered his eyes, anticipating the refusal. But I'll accept. The executive looked up, incredulous. Seriously? You really will? With conditions, Claire hastened to add. First, I won't introduce myself as Camille. As you suggested, I will be a special friend. Second, when the week is over, I won't completely disappear from Lily's life. I can visit her occasionally, maintaining some connection so it's not a new abandonment. Henry nodded vigorously. Of course. What else? Third, I need to know more about who Camille was. Her tastes, habits, stories, not to imitate her perfectly, but to avoid contradictions that could confuse Lily. I can show you videos, photos, tell you stories. Maria also knew Camille well. And finally, Claire took a deep breath. I won't accept the money. Henry frowned, confused. What do you mean? You'll be closing your bakery, going through all this trouble. I'll cover the costs of the closed bakery by paying my employee and the rent, but I don't want to profit from this. I wouldn't feel right. The executive studied the young woman's face for a long moment. It was clear he wasn't dealing with an ordinary person. All right, I respect your decision. When could you start? Tomorrow is Friday. I can organize everything so Mrs. Jenkins can take care of the bakery until Monday. Then we'll close for a week. They finalized the details. Claire would spend the first night at the mansion on Saturday, the day before meeting Lily. This would give her time to familiarize herself with the house and learn more about Camille. That afternoon dragged on at the bakery. Every customer who walked in seemed a witness to a guilty secret Claire carried. Was she making a terrible mistake? Would she harm an innocent child? As she closed the shop, she called her only living relative, her Aunt Carol, who lived out of town. Auntie, I'll need to go on a business trip. I'll be gone for a week. The lie left a bitter taste in her mouth. If she couldn't even tell her aunt the truth, how could she be so certain of her decision? Saturday arrived with an agonizing speed. Claire packed a small suitcase with simple clothes. She hesitated when choosing a nightgown. Should she take something more discreet for a house where a child would be present? Upon arriving at the mansion, she was greeted by Maria, who led her to a guest room on the second floor. Mr. Thompson asked you to wait for him in the video room when you're ready. It's the third door on the right down the hall. The room was larger than her entire apartment. The ocean view was breathtaking. Lily is spending the day with her paternal grandparents, Maria explained. She won't return until tomorrow morning. After putting away her things, Claire headed to the indicated room. Henry was already waiting, surrounded by photo albums and an open laptop. Thank you for coming, he said, standing up. I prepared a kind of immersion into Camille's life. In the following hours, Claire plunged into the life of a stranger who, by some twist of fate, could have been her twin. Camille Thompson had been a pediatrician, a graduate of Harvard Medical School, specializing in child neurology. Born in a historic town, she met Henry during college when he was studying computer engineering. She loved children more than anything, Henry recounted, showing videos of Camille with patients at the hospital. It was a very much desired pregnancy. We had trouble conceiving. In every video, every photo, every story, Claire saw a woman with an easy smile and bright eyes. Someone who had clearly been deeply loved. This was the perfume she wore, Henry said, handing her a bluish glass bottle. And this, her favorite book, The Unbearable Lightness of Being, Claire read. I love that book too. An awkward silence settled between them. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. No, it's all right, Henry interrupted. It's natural that you have things in common. As the night progressed, Claire felt increasingly connected to Camille and, strangely, to Henry. There was something touching about the way he spoke of his wife. Not just pain, but a deep gratitude for having known her. They had dinner on the porch accompanied by the sound of the waves. The food, prepared by Maria, was delicious. Lily is allergic to peanuts, Henry commented. And she loves strawberries, just like her mother. Does she have other close relatives besides her paternal grandparents? Camille's parents live in Europe. We keep in touch via video calls, but they only come to the States once a year. Around 10 o'clock, Claire felt emotionally exhausted. So much information, so many responsibilities, I think I'll call it a night. Tomorrow will be a big day, Henry nodded. Before you go, I wanted to show you Lily's room. It might be important to know her environment. The girl's room was a small, enchanted world. Butterfly mobiles hung from the ceiling. A dollhouse occupied one corner, and an impressive collection of children's books filled a low shelf. She loves when I read to her before bed, Henry commented, especially this one. It was a book about a little girl who sent letters to her mother who lived among the stars. Camille bought it before she left us. As if she knew, Henry's voice broke. Claire felt immense compassion for the man who was trying, alone, to keep his wife's memory alive for his daughter. I'll do my best to help Lily. Henry, not as a substitute for her mother, but as someone who cares. Back in the guest room, Claire lay down but couldn't sleep. She picked up Camille's book and began to read, trying to better understand the woman whose shadow she would temporarily occupy. The night wore on as she absorbed every detail of that house, that broken family. Around 5 in the morning, she finally succumbed to sleep, only to be awakened 2 hours later by a movement in the hallway. Voices approached. One of them, small and animated, made her heart race. Grandma made chocolate cake, Daddy. I ate 2 pieces. Lily, you weren't supposed to tell Daddy that, an older male voice chuckled. Claire jumped out of bed. Lily had arrived earlier than expected. She wasn't ready for the encounter yet. She quickly put on a simple floral cotton dress, similar to those she'd seen Camille wear in the photos, and took several deep breaths. It's just 1 week, she repeated to herself like a mantra. 1 week to bring a child some happiness. When she finally gathered the courage to leave the room, she found Henry alone in the living room. He looked nervous. Good morning, he said, standing up. Lily arrived early. My parents had an engagement and brought her over now. She's having breakfast with Maria in the kitchen. I'm nervous, Claire confessed. Me too, but it's the right thing to do. Lily deserves a little happiness. How are we going to do this? How will you introduce me? I thought I'd just say you're a special friend who's come to visit us for a few days. The rest? Well, we'll let Lily draw her own conclusions. Claire nodded, her stomach churning. Let's go then. They walked to the kitchen, where a little girl with curly brown hair was eating pancakes with chocolate syrup. Beside her, Maria cut another pancake into small pieces. Lily, Henry called softly. There's someone here I want you to meet. The girl looked up, and the world stopped. The child's eyes, identical to her father's, widened. The bite of pancake was suspended in the air, forgotten. Her small mouth formed a little O of surprise. This is Claire. She's going to spend a few days with us. Lily didn't respond. She kept staring at Claire with an intensity almost supernatural for a 3-year-old. Maria also seemed speechless, looking from Claire to the photo of Camille on the refrigerator, and back to Claire. A tense silence dominated the room. Claire felt like an imposter, an intruder in a world that didn't belong to her. For a terrible instant, she considered turning back and fleeing. It was Lily who broke the silence. Slowly, the girl climbed down from the chair. With hesitant steps, she approached Claire. Her little eyes examined every detail of the baker's face, as if seeking to confirm what her heart already knew. Claire crouched down to be at the child's height, feeling her own heart pounding against her chest. Hello? Lily. It's nice to meet you. The girl raised a trembling small hand and touched Claire's face delicately, as if afraid she would disappear at the slightest contact. Did you come from heaven? Lily asked, her voice barely a whisper. Claire looked desperately at Henry, unsure of what to say. The executive looked equally lost. I came from a place not too far from here, Claire finally replied. A bakery called the Sugar Blossom Bakery. Do you make cakes? Yes, lots of cakes, of all kinds and flavors. Lily's eyes sparkled. My mommy used to make cakes with me too. Is that so? Yes, the girl nodded vigorously. Chocolate cakes with strawberry frosting. It was the best cake in the world. Claire smiled, feeling a lump in her throat. How about we make a cake together sometime? What happened next took everyone by surprise. Lily threw herself into Claire's arms with such force that she nearly knocked her over. She hugged her with the desperate intensity of someone who finds something precious they thought was lost forever. You were gone for so long, the girl murmured, her face buried in Claire's neck. I knew you would come back. Henry raised a hand to his mouth, visibly emotional. Maria turned away to hide her tears. And Claire, captured in that innocent embrace, felt something awaken inside her, a protective instinct, an immediate tenderness for the fragile child who confused her with the mother she loved so much. Was it wrong to allow the deception? Probably. But at that moment, with Lily clinging to her as if her life depended on it, Claire couldn't think about the ethics of the situation. She could only feel that little heart beating against hers and the certainty that, in some inexplicable way, she was exactly where she was supposed to be. Shall we have breakfast together? She invited, gently pulling away from the hug to look into the girl's eyes. Lily nodded, beaming. She took Claire's hand and led her to the table as if she were the hostess. Do you like pancakes with chocolate syrup? I love them. It's my favorite breakfast ever. The naturalness with which the girl welcomed her left Claire stunned. She hadn't expected such immediate, complete acceptance. As she sat down at the kitchen table, with Lily animatedly chatting about her toys, her favorite cartoons, and the new dress she wanted to wear to her birthday party, Claire shot a glance at Henry. He was watching the scene with an expression divided between joy and guilt. Were they doing the right thing? Time would tell. But for now, the sound of Lily's laughter, perhaps the first genuine laughter in a long time, seemed a sufficient answer. The first day in the Thompsons' house passed like a fever dream for Claire. Lily didn't leave her side for a moment, as if afraid the special visitor might disappear at the slightest oversight. The girl showed her every toy, every book, every secret corner of the mansion. This is Mr. Whiskers, Lily introduced, holding up the worn rag doll. Mommy made him for me. He takes care of me when I have nightmares. Claire smiled, gently holding the toy. He looks very brave. He is. He scares away all the monsters under the bed. The afternoon was dedicated to a picnic in the garden. Maria prepared sandwiches, juices, and fruit which were laid out on a checkered blanket. Lily insisted that Claire sit between her and her father. Tell a story, Daddy, the girl asked, nibbling on a strawberry. Henry began to narrate a story about a butterfly princess who lived in the most beautiful garden in the world. It was clearly a story he told often, as Lily completed some sentences, anticipating her father. And the butterfly queen had the most beautiful smile in the whole kingdom, Henry added, throwing a meaningful look at Claire. The baker felt herself blush under the weight of that gaze. It was difficult to separate what was acting and what was real in the strange dynamic forming between the three of them. That night, at bedtime, the girl asked Claire to read her favorite story, the very book about the girl who sent letters to her mother in the stars. You read just like Mommy, Lily commented, already sleepy, with the same soft voice. Those words fell like stones on Claire's heart. Was what they were doing right? Or were they feeding an illusion that would only bring more pain in the future? When she finally managed to get Lily to sleep, she found Henry on the porch, contemplating the dark sea. She looks so happy, he commented, without taking his eyes off the horizon. It's been so long since I've seen her like this. That worries me, Henry. She clearly believes I'm Camille. I never said you were. You didn't have to. The physical resemblance was enough for her to draw her own conclusions, and we've done nothing to correct that mistake. Henry finally turned to face her. Do you want to quit? Do you think we're wrong? Claire sighed, running a hand through her hair. I don't know. I just know I'm afraid of what will happen when I leave. We still have 6 days ahead of us. Let's give Lily this gift, a week of happiness, and then we'll think about what to do." Claire nodded, even though she wasn't entirely convinced. Before retiring, she cast one last glance at Henry. Under the moonlight, with the most relaxed expression she'd seen on him so far, he looked years younger and strangely attractive. The second day began with Lily invading Claire's room at 6 in the morning, jumping on the bed with enthusiasm. "Let's make pancakes! Let's make pancakes!" While they prepared breakfast together, with flour scattered all over the kitchen and laughter echoing off the walls, Claire noticed something unsettling. She was enjoying herself. Genuinely. It wasn't just compassion that moved her, but a real pleasure in the company of that child. The third day brought rain, a typical downpour of the coastal southeast. Unable to go out, they spent the day building blanket forts in the living room, baking cookies, and watching princess movies. Lily insisted that Claire sit in the middle of the couch between her and her father. At one point, Henry stretched his arm along the back of the couch, his fingers lightly brushing Claire's shoulder. She pretended not to notice, but her heart raced. On the fourth day, Lily woke up with a fever. Claire spent hours by the girl's bedside, applying cool compresses and singing softly. Henry watched from the doorway, with an expression that mixed gratitude and something deeper, more dangerous. "You're good with kids," he commented when Lily finally fell asleep. "Have you ever thought about having children?" The question caught Claire by surprise. "One day, maybe. I've always wanted a large family." Camille wanted that too. "We planned on having at least 3 kids. An uncomfortable silence settled between them. Camille's shadow, always present. On the 5th day, with Lily recovered, they took a stroll through the historic downtown area. They visited a maritime museum, had ice cream at the waterfront park, and walked through the historic streets. To any observer, they looked like a normal, happy family. At times, even Claire forgot that this was temporary, an illusion with an expiration date. In a toy store, while Lily was distracted by a remote control car demonstration, Henry approached Claire. "I need to tell you something," he said in a low voice. "I'm feeling guilty." "About what?" "About you, about us. When I invited you to do this, it was only because of your resemblance to Camille. But now—" Claire felt her stomach drop. "Now what, Henry?" "Now I'm seeing you, the Claire, not as a copy of Camille, but as someone unique, special in your own right." Before she could answer, Lily came running back, showing off the toy she had chosen, a small bakery playset. "Look, it's just like your shop." The 6th day dawned sunny, perfect for the party that would take place the next day. Claire helped with the final preparations, approving the menu, the sweets, and the decorations, all in shades of pink and lavender, with the butterfly theme Lily loved so much. In the afternoon, the little girl insisted on showing Claire her photo album. "This is Mommy when she was a doctor," she explained, pointing to a photo of Camille in a white coat. "She took care of sick kids." She turned the page. "This is Mommy with me in her tummy." A pregnant Camille smiled radiantly at the camera. "And this is Mommy holding me when I was a baby." Page after page. The girl showed the mother she barely got to know, but who occupied such a large space in her small heart. Claire felt her throat tighten with every new image. "Why did you have to go to heaven?" Lily suddenly asked, catching Claire completely off guard. I... Daddy said you got sick and turned into a little star. But now you're back, right?" The baker felt panic rising. She looked around, searching for Henry, but he had gone out to pick up some things for the party. "Lily, darling, I'm not—" The girl interrupted her, hugging her tightly. "It's okay. I know you can't stay forever. My school teacher said that people who turn into little stars can only visit us in our dreams. But even so, I'm really happy you came to my party." Those innocent words were like a punch to Claire's gut. Lily, in her childlike wisdom, had already created an explanation for the situation, one that allowed her to accept the temporary presence of that version of her mother without questioning the reality of the loss. That night, after putting Lily to sleep, Claire found Henry in the study. He was working on some emails but closed his laptop as soon as she walked in. "I need to talk to you," she said, closing the door behind her. "Of course. I think we're making a terrible mistake, Henry." He frowned. "What happened?" "Lily showed me the photo album today, and she asked me some questions about me having gone to heaven and coming back. She completely believes I'm Camille. We never confirmed that. We never denied it either." "It's the same thing." Claire began to pace the office, agitated. "And there's more. I'm getting emotionally involved. With Lily, with this house, with you." The last word came out almost as a whisper. Henry stood up, moving closer to her. Is that so bad? It's complicated. I no longer know what is real and what is an act. When I came here, I was sure it would just be a week, a favor out of compassion. Now? Claire swallowed hard. Now I'm afraid to leave. Henry took her hands in his. What if you didn't have to leave? What do you mean? What if this could be real? The three of us together? Claire pulled away, stepping back. You're not thinking clearly, Henry. You're not falling in love with me. You're falling in love with the image of Camille you see in me. That's not true. I know every detail about Camille, her tastes, her mannerisms, her way of thinking. And you, Claire, are completely different from her in everything but appearance. And it's you, the Claire I've gotten to know these past few days, that I'm feeling something for. She shook her head, incredulous. This is madness. We've known each other for less than a week, and it feels like I've known you my whole life. That's just the context, the artificial situation we created. Henry took a step forward, closing the distance between them. Then prove me wrong. Stay another week after the party. No pretending, no arrangements. Just you, being yourself. If at the end of that week what I feel has dissipated, you'll be right, and we can say goodbye amicably. The proposal was tempting, but terrifying. And Lily? How would we explain that to her? We can tell her the truth, that you're not her mother, but someone who cares a lot about her. That will break her. Maybe at first. But children are resilient, and having you in our lives, even if not as her mother, would be better than not having you at all. Claire felt dizzy with the complexity of the situation. Henry was so close now that she could smell his cologne, a mix of sandalwood and something uniquely his. I need to think, she murmured, stepping back. The party is tomorrow. Let's focus on that first. When she returned to her room, Claire couldn't sleep. She tossed and turned, mentally replaying every moment of the last 6 days. She had entered that house determined to help a sad child, convinced of her moral superiority over a desperate father who had proposed something unethical. And now she was as involved as he was, as lost as Lily in the fantasy they had created. Through the window, she could see the ocean under the moonlight. The waves crashed on the shore, relentless and constant. What would her life be like if she accepted Henry's proposal? Could she really build something true from such a distorted beginning? In the next room, she could hear Lily's soft breathing. In just 6 days, that child had won her heart in a way she never imagined possible. The thought of leaving her was too painful to contemplate. And then there was Henry, the man who initially scared her with his desperate plea, but who now intrigued her with his complexity, his devotion to his daughter, his loyalty to his wife's memory, and this new tenderness he showed for her. Claire, sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at her own reflection in the vanity mirror, Claire asked herself a crucial question. Who am I in this story? The heroine or the villain? The savior or the imposter? The reflection offered no answers, only returned the gaze of a woman divided between what she knew was right and what her heart desired. The 7th day dawned sunny, as if the universe approved of the celebration that was about to happen. Claire woke up to Lily jumping on her bed, more excited than ever. It's my birthday! It's my birthday! The baker hugged the girl, feeling a love so genuine it hurt. Happy birthday, princess! How old are you turning? Lily proudly held up 3 fingers. 3! I'm a big girl now! You certainly are. And big girls deserve amazing parties. The morning passed in a frenzy of preparations. The caterer arrived early, setting up tables in the garden. The butterfly theme was in every detail, from the napkins to the chocolate fountain, whose base mimicked flowers where small sugar butterflies perched. Claire personally supervised the cake, an elaborate 3-tiered creation in a lavender gradient, with delicate butterflies that seemed to flutter around it. Even though it wasn't from her bakery, she made sure to add some special touches. At 2 in the afternoon, the first guests began to arrive. Families with children from Lily's school, some of Henry's work colleagues and their respective children. Everyone looked at Claire with barely disguised curiosity, clearly noticing the resemblance to the deceased Camille. Henry introduced her simply as a very special friend of the family, but the glances and whispers persisted. Claire tried to ignore them, focusing only on ensuring Lily had the perfect day, and she was succeeding. The girl ran around the garden, playing with friends, laughing more than anyone had ever seen her laugh. From time to time, she sought Claire with her eyes, as if to make sure she was still there and finding her. She broke into a radiant smile. I've never seen her so happy, commented a woman who introduced herself as Lily's teacher. She's been so quiet at school these past few months. The party reached its peak with the arrival of the cake. All the children gathered around the main table, singing Happy Birthday enthusiastically. Lily, the center of attention, glowed with happiness. "Make a wish before blowing out the candles," Henry instructed, kneeling beside his daughter. Lily closed her eyes for a moment, concentrating. When she opened them, she looked directly at Claire. "I already wished," she announced, before blowing out the 3 candles with all the strength of her small lungs. Applause erupted around them. Henry kissed his daughter's cheek. "What did you wish for, Princess?" Lily shook her head. "I can't tell, or it won't come true." But as the slices of cake were being distributed, the girl pulled Claire aside and whispered in her ear, "I wished you would never leave." Those simple words hit Claire like a lightning bolt. Suddenly, the reality of the situation they had created fell upon her shoulders with all its weight. In less than a week, she would be leaving the life of this child who now looked at her with such hope and love. For the first time since all this madness began, Claire felt genuine tears well up in her eyes. Not tears of compassion for Lily or Henry, but for herself, for allowing her heart to become so involved in an impossible situation. "What's wrong?" Lily asked, worried. "Are you sad on my birthday?" Claire forced a smile, quickly wiping away the tears. "No, sweetie. I'm crying happy tears from seeing you so content." The girl smiled, relieved. "Come on, let's eat cake. The piece with the big butterfly is mine." As Lily ran back to the table, Claire stayed behind, trying to regain her composure. That's when she felt a presence beside her. "Are you all right?" Henry asked with genuine concern. "No," she replied, honestly. "I'm not. Lily just told me her birthday wish." Henry frowned. "What did she wish for?" "That I would never leave." The executive sighed deeply. "And would that be so impossible?" Before Claire could answer, they were interrupted by Lily, who came running back with a slice of cake in each hand. "One for you, Daddy." "And one for you, Mommy." The word hung in the air between them like a wounded bird. It was the first time Lily had called her that directly, in public. Nearby guests who heard were visibly uncomfortable. An older woman, whom Claire identified as Henry's mother, paled. Time seemed to freeze at that crucial moment. What would Claire do? Correct Lily in front of everyone, potentially humiliating her on her own birthday? Or accept the term of endearment, perpetuating the illusion for a few more hours? Henry looked at her, equally lost. That's when Claire made a decision that would change the course of their lives forever. Claire knelt down to Lily's eye level. Delicately, she took the plate of cake the girl offered her. "Thank you, sweetie," she said, maintaining her composure despite the whirlwind of emotions. "How about we go see if your friends want to play on the bouncy castle?" The immediate crisis had been averted, but Claire knew a definitive resolution would be necessary. As she watched Lily happily jumping with the other children, she felt someone approach. It was an elegant woman with perfectly styled gray hair, Henry's mother, Susan. "My son told me about you," the woman said without preamble. "About the arrangement." Claire felt her face burn. "Mrs. Thompson, Susan, please." The woman raised a hand, interrupting her. "I'm not here to judge." When Henry told me, I was horrified. But today... She looked towards her granddaughter, who was laughing as she hadn't in a long time. "Today, I no longer know what to think." "Me neither," Claire confessed. "It had started as a gesture of compassion, but now it's complicated," Susan finished. "I noticed the way my son looks at you. It's not the same look he had for Camille. How is it different?" The woman smiled gently. When he looked at Camille, there was adoration, almost idolization. "When he looks at you, there's something more mature, more real. He sees you, with all your doubts and conflicts." Those words touched Claire deeply. Could it be that Henry was truly seeing her as she was, and not just as an echo of his late wife? "What do you think I should do?" Susan sighed. "I can't answer that. I just know that my granddaughter is happy for the first time in a long time. And my son seems alive again?" She touched Claire's arm. "But whatever decision you make, think very carefully about the consequences. Hearts are involved." The party continued lively until dusk. When the last guest left, Lily was exhausted but radiant. She insisted that Claire put her to sleep. "It was the best birthday ever," the girl murmured, already sleepy, hugging Mr. Whiskers. "Thank you for coming from heaven to see me." Those innocent words were the last straw. As soon as Lily fell asleep, Claire left the room, determined to have a definitive conversation with Henry. She found him in the garden, supervising the cleanup crew. "We need to talk," she said without preamble. "In private." They went to the study where Henry poured 2 glasses of wine. Claire refused hers. "We can't continue this," she declared. "It's too cruel to Lily," Henry sighed. "I know. She believes I'm Camille, that I came back from heaven to see her, and tomorrow, supposedly, I'm supposed to disappear from her life again." "Unless you stay," Claire shook her head, frustrated. "It's not that simple, Henry. Even if I stay, eventually we would have to tell her the truth. The longer we let it go on, the worse it will be. Then we tell her the truth now." The proposal caught Claire by surprise. "How?" "Tomorrow morning. We sit down with Lily and explain everything. That you're not Camille, but someone who cares a lot about her. That you can continue to be a part of our lives if you want, but in an honest way." "Do you think she'll understand?" "It will be difficult at first, but children have an incredible capacity for adaptation, and most importantly, she won't be losing someone again. You would still be present, just in a different way." Claire put her hands to her face, trying to organize her thoughts. "And us, what are we, Henry? Is what we feel for each other real, or just a product of this crazy situation?" Henry approached, taking her hands in his. "What I feel for you is real. So real it scares me. How can you be sure? We've known each other for a week, under completely artificial circumstances. Because what I feel for you is completely different from what I felt for Camille." That statement surprised Claire. "How so?" "Camille was my first love. We were practically kids when we met. We grew up together, graduated together, built a life, but in a way we never fully saw each other. It was an almost idyllic relationship without major challenges or conflicts." He paused, searching for the right words. "With you, Claire, it's different. We met at my worst moment. You saw me desperate, fragile, making huge ethical mistakes. And yet you're here. There's no idealization. There's no perfection. It's more adult, truer." Claire felt tears well up in her eyes. "I'm afraid I'm just a substitute." "You're not. You never could be." Henry gently stroked her face. "You are you, unique, and it's you I'm falling in love with." Before Claire could respond, the study door suddenly opened. It was Lily, in pajamas and hugging Mr. Whiskers. "I had a nightmare," the girl announced, her voice sleepy. Henry and Claire discreetly moved apart. "Do you want to tell us about it, Princess?" Henry asked, holding out his arms for his daughter. Lily walked over to them, sitting on her father's lap. "I dreamed Mommy was leaving again. Forever." The look Claire and Henry exchanged was loaded with meaning. The moment of truth had arrived sooner than they expected. "Lily," Henry began softly, "we need to talk about something important." The girl noticed the seriousness in her father's voice, and her eyes widened. "It's true, isn't it? You're leaving tomorrow." She turned to Claire, tears in her eyes. Claire took a deep breath, gathering the courage for what she was about to do. She knelt in front of the girl. "Lily, I need to tell you something. Something that might be hard to understand now. But one day you will." The girl watched her with large, attentive eyes. "I'm not your mommy from heaven." The words hung in the air like fragile crystals. Lily frowned, confused. "I don't understand," Henry intervened gently. "Remember when I told you Mommy went to heaven? That she turned into a little star?" Lily nodded. "When people go to heaven, they can't come back, sweetie. Not for birthdays, not for visits." "But..." The girl looked at Claire, confused. "She looks like Mommy, just like the pictures." "I know, Princess. It just so happens that Claire looks a lot like Mommy. But they are different people." Claire took the girl's small hands in hers. "Your dad met me at my bakery when he came to pick up your birthday cake. He saw that I looked a lot like your mom and invited me to come and meet you." Lily slowly processed the information, her expression shifting from confusion to gradual understanding. "So you're not my mommy?" The pain in the child's voice broke Claire's heart. "No, sweetie. I'm Claire. I'm a baker who lives downtown. I have a shop where I make cakes and sweets. But this week I met a very special little girl who taught me a lot about love and joy." Lily lowered her head, hugging Mr. Whiskers tighter. "Are you going away then?" Claire looked at Henry, seeking guidance. He nodded slightly, encouraging her. "That depends, Lily. I can't be your mother because your mother was unique and special, and no one can replace her. But I can be your friend if you want." "Friend?" The girl seemed to consider the concept. "Yes, a friend who likes you a lot and can come visit you, take you out, make cakes together? Like Aunt Carol?" Lily referred to a family friend who occasionally visited her. "Something like that. But perhaps I can be an even closer friend, if you and your dad want me to be." Lily was silent for a long moment, processing everything. When she finally spoke, her voice was surprisingly calm. But won't my mommy from heaven be sad if you're my friend? The question, so innocent and profound at the same time, moved Claire. No, sweetie. I'm sure your mother would be very happy to know that you have people who love you and take care of you. Lily turned to her father. Is that true, Daddy? It is, Princess. Mommy only wanted your happiness. And mine too. The girl seemed to accept this explanation. Then you can be my friend Claire. That would be an honor. Lily yawned, exhausted by the day's emotions. Can I sleep in your bed tonight? Just tonight? Claire looked at Henry, who nodded. Of course you can, sweetie. When Lily finally fell asleep again, this time in Claire's bed, the baker found Henry on the porch. How do you think she's handling all this? She asked, worried. Better than we expected, I think. But tomorrow will be the true test. They stood in silence for a while, watching the moon reflected in the sea. And you? Henry finally asked. How are you handling all this? Claire sighed. Honestly, I'm scared. In 1 week, my life has been turned upside down. I've developed feelings for a child I barely know, and for a man whose wife I coincidentally look like. Sounds like the plot of a soap opera, doesn't it? Henry smiled without humor, the most unlikely one. So, what do we do now? Claire thought for a moment. I think we need time. Real time, without pretending or pressure. I need to go back to my life, to my bakery. And you and Lily need to adjust to this new configuration. Are you leaving tomorrow then? Yes, but not completely. I can visit Lily on weekends. We can see how things evolve naturally. Henry nodded, though he seemed a little disappointed. And what about us? We need time too, Henry. I can't deny that I feel something for you, but I need to be sure it's real and not just a product of this extraordinary situation. He took her hand in his. I can wait. Time is something I have plenty of. The next morning, breakfast was quieter than usual. Lily was thoughtful, alternating glances between Claire and her father. Are you really leaving today? She finally asked. I'm going back to my house, yes, Claire replied. I need to reopen my bakery. Lots of people are waiting for my cakes. Do you make pretty cakes like the one for my birthday? I do, yes. Of all kinds and flavors. Can I visit your bakery? Claire smiled, relieved by the opening. Of course you can, whenever you want. Tomorrow? Henry laughed at his daughter's eagerness. How about next weekend? That gives Claire time to get organized. Lily agreed, though she seemed a little disappointed by the wait. After breakfast, Claire packed her things. It was strange how in just 7 days that guest room had become familiar. When she came downstairs with her suitcase, she found Henry and Lily waiting in the living room. The girl was holding something in her hands, a drawing. I made this for you, she said, handing the paper to Claire. It's me, you, Daddy, and Mr. Whiskers. The drawing showed 4 stick figures, 2 large, 1 small, and one that looked like a deformed cat, presumably Mr. Whiskers. Everyone was smiling. It's beautiful, Lily. I'm going to hang it on my refrigerator. The goodbye was quieter than Claire expected. Lily hugged her tightly and asked her to come back soon. There was no more confusion in her eyes, just the sincere affection of a child for someone she liked. Henry walked her to the car. Thank you, he said simply, for everything. It was nothing. It was everything. He held her face in his hands. You brought light back into this house. To us. Without thinking much, Claire leaned in and kissed him softly on the lips. It was a brief, chaste kiss, but loaded with promises. Until Saturday, she said, getting into the car. We'll be waiting. As she drove back to her downtown apartment, Claire felt a mix of emotions, relief at returning to her normal life, nostalgia for the intense days she had lived, and a shy hope for what the future might hold. Upon arriving home, the first thing she did was hang Lily's drawing on the refrigerator. Then she called Mrs. Jenkins. You can reopen the bakery tomorrow, she informed her. I'll be there at 7 sharp. Girl, are you all right? Your voice sounds different. Claire smiled to herself. I am different, Mrs. Jenkins, but I'm well. That night, lying in her own bed, she missed the sound of the ocean waves, the scent of the Thompsons' house, and surprisingly, even the soft snores of Lily, who had slept with her the night before. Her phone rang. It was a text from Henry. Lily just asked an interesting question. If you're not mommy, but you like Daddy and Daddy likes you, then can you be my new mommy one day? Claire felt her heart race. She replied, What did you tell her? The answer came almost immediately. I said that's something only time can answer, but that it would be the most beautiful thing in the world if it happened. She smiled at her phone. Feeling like a teenager, time will answer. Then, she texted back, The next day, upon reopening the Sugar Blossom Bakery, Claire realized how everything seemed smaller, simpler. It had only been a week, but she felt as if years had passed. Mrs. Jenkins noticed the change immediately. "What were you thinking, accepting to work at a client's house for a week?" she questioned suspiciously. "There's something you're not telling me, girl." Claire smiled, enigmatic. "It's a lot of things, Mrs. Jenkins. Maybe one day I'll tell you." The week passed quickly, with Claire trying to catch up at the bakery. On Thursday, she received a bouquet of yellow roses, Camille's favorites, she realized with a pang in her chest. The card read, "To Claire, who brought light back into our home. From your friends, Henry and Lily." It wasn't the flowers Camille liked that mattered, she realized. It was the gesture, the thought, the intention to build something new and different. When Saturday finally arrived, Claire was more nervous than ever. She carefully chose her outfit, a floral dress, but different from the ones she'd seen in Camille's photos. It was important to establish her own identity. Upon arriving at the Thompsons' mansion, she was greeted by an extremely excited Lily, who practically dragged her inside. "I made a cake for you." "Well, Daddy helped, but I did the mixing and added the stuff." The cake was more like a formless mound of chocolate batter with uneven frosting, but to Claire, it was the most beautiful creation she had ever seen. "It's perfect, Lily." Henry watched the scene with a smile. When Lily ran off to get something in her room, he approached Claire. "She talked about you all week. I think I've got a competitor." "Nonsense. No one can compete with Superdad." He laughed, and the sound of his laughter made something warm inside Claire. "I missed you," he admitted, softly. "Me too." The moment was interrupted by Lily, who came running back with a photo album. "I want to show you something." It was a new album started that week. On the first page, a photo from the birthday party. Lily in the center, with Henry and Claire on either side, all smiling. "We're going to put more pictures here," the girl explained. "Of friend Claire." The simplicity with which Lily accepted the change in their relationship was admirable. For a 3-year-old, what mattered was love, presence, not labels. The day passed quietly, with the three of them visiting the local park, having ice cream, and strolling through the historic downtown area. A casual observer would see them as a normal, happy family. And perhaps Claire thought that was exactly what they were becoming. Not a conventional family, built on lies and pretense, but a new configuration, based on conscious choices and honesty. When night fell and Lily fell asleep, Claire and Henry sat on the porch watching the sea. He took her hand in his. "And now we figure it out day by day," she replied. "No rush, no pressure. Do you think it can work, us?" Claire looked up at the starry sky, thinking about all the unlikely paths life sometimes took. "I think we have a chance," she finally answered. "A good chance." He smiled, relieved. "That's all I ask for." Life rarely followed a predictable script, Claire reflected. Sometimes the strangest beginnings led to the most beautiful destinations, and perhaps it was precisely the chaos, the complexity, the errors and successes of the journey that made the path truly meaningful. Looking at the man beside her and thinking of the girl sleeping upstairs, Claire felt for the first time in a long time that she was exactly where she was supposed to be. 3 months passed since Lily's birthday. The routine that settled was unlike anything Claire could have imagined for her life. During the week, she dedicated herself entirely to the Sugar Blossom Bakery, which was now beginning to gain more notoriety. On Saturdays, she invariably visited the Thompsons' mansion, spending the day with Lily and Henry. Sometimes she spent the night in the guest room, returning only on Sunday evening. It was a peculiar arrangement, one that drew curious glances and veiled comments, but for the three involved, it worked perfectly. Lily had adapted to the new reality with surprising flexibility. She called Claire by name, without confusion or hesitation. The baker had become a constant and reliable presence in her life, not as a substitute for her mother, but as someone unique and special in her own right. As for Henry and Claire, the relationship evolved slowly, with the caution of two adults who understood the complexity of the situation. They met occasionally during the week for quick lunches or evening walks on the beach. They exchanged daily texts. They were truly getting to know each other, without the artificial pressure of the first few days. On a particularly busy Friday afternoon at the bakery, Claire was finishing a wedding cake when Mrs. Jenkins appeared in the kitchen with a worried expression. "There's a woman asking to speak to you," she announced. "Says it's important." "Who is it?" "Wouldn't say. But she looks like a very refined person." Intrigued, Claire wiped her hands on her apron and went to the front of the shop. An elegant woman around 60 waited patiently. Something about her looked vaguely familiar. "Good afternoon. I'm Claire Adams. How can I help you?" The woman studied her for a moment, with an impossible-to-decipher expression. "My name is Eliza Hayes. I am Camille's mother." The shock was like a bucket of cold water. Henry's mother-in-law, Lily's grandmother, the mother of the woman Claire coincidentally resembled so much. "Mrs. Hayes, it's a pleasure to meet you." The woman did not return the greeting. "Could we speak privately?" "Of course. We can go to my office." In the small room in the back of the bakery, Claire offered coffee, which Eliza politely refused. "My daughter and I were very close, Ms. Adams," Eliza began directly. "Even after my husband and I moved to Portugal, we spoke almost daily. Camille told me everything." Claire nodded, unsure where the conversation was going. "When she left us," the woman continued, her voice slightly trembling, "it was like losing a piece of myself. I only didn't completely succumb because there was still Lily. My granddaughter needed her grandmother, especially without her mother around." "I understand," Claire murmured, though she didn't truly understand. She had never known her own mother to know what losing her would feel like. "We video chat with Lily every week. 3 months ago, my granddaughter started talking about you. Daddy's special friend, she says." Eliza paused, studying Claire's face intently. "The resemblance truly is remarkable," she commented, almost to herself. "I understand now why Henry was so struck. Mrs. Hayes, if you'll allow me to explain—" "You don't need to explain anything. Henry has already told me everything. How you met, the absurd proposal he made, how you initially refused, but then accepted for Lily. So you know I never intended to replace your daughter." "I do," Eliza sighed deeply. "We've come to town for Lily's 4th birthday, which is in 2 weeks. I felt I should meet you first. See for myself what kind of person is entering my granddaughter's life." The tension in the air was palpable. Claire felt as if she were being judged, and perhaps she was. "And what impression do you have so far?" she dared to ask. Eliza allowed herself a small smile. "I'm still deciding, but I know Lily adores you, and Henry seems different when he talks about you." "How is he different?" "Calmer, more present, less tormented." She paused. "He loved my daughter deeply, you know, since college. He never looked at another woman." "I know. He told me about Camille, how they met, how happy they were." "They were, but—" Eliza hesitated as if carefully choosing her words. "But perhaps it was a different kind of love. A youthful love, beautiful, pure, but perhaps not so. Tested by life's difficulties." This observation surprised Claire, echoing something Henry himself had said. "You don't seem as opposed to us as I imagined you would be." Eliza tilted her head slightly. "Losing a daughter changes your perspective on many things, Ms. Adams. I've learned that life is too precious to be wasted on bitterness or resentment. Henry deserves to be happy. Lily deserves to be happy. And if you are the person who brings that happiness to them, who am I to object? That is very generous of you." "It's not generosity. It's acceptance." Eliza opened her purse and took out a small envelope. "I brought something for you." Inside the envelope was a photograph. It showed Camille smiling, with baby Lily in her arms. "Why?" Claire asked, confused. "So you can know her a little. So you can understand the legacy you will, in a way, help to preserve for Lily." Claire felt tears in her eyes. It was an unexpected and deeply meaningful gesture. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet," Eliza warned, standing up. "I'm still observing. If I feel you are harming my granddaughter in any way or using Henry, I would never do that." "I sincerely hope not." Eliza extended her hand. "Until Lily's birthday, then. I'll be there." After Eliza left, Claire stood for long minutes contemplating the photograph. It was strange to see the woman she had never met, but whose absence had, through a series of extraordinary coincidences, transformed her own life. "Thank you," she whispered to the image, though she wasn't sure exactly what she was thanking her for. That night, Henry invited her to dinner. They chose a small restaurant in the historic district, away from the curious eyes of high society. "I met your mother-in-law today," Claire announced after the waiter served the wine. Henry nearly choked. "Eliza came to see you? She didn't tell me anything." "I think she wanted to form an opinion without your influence." "And how did it go?" "Surprisingly civilized. I wasn't expecting approval, but I didn't receive hostility either." Henry shook his head, amazed. "Eliza has always been unpredictable. Camille used to say her mother had a sixth sense for judging people's character." "So, should I feel honored to have passed the test?" "Believe me, if she didn't like you, she would know immediately." He took a sip of wine. "Eliza was very protective of Camille. After we lost Camille, I thought she would blame me somehow. But instead, we grew even closer. She understood that I was devastated too. She seems like an incredible woman." "She is. Lily gets a lot from her. The determination, the sharp intuition." Dinner proceeded pleasantly, with conversations about both their work, about Lily, about future plans. There was an ease in their interaction that strongly contrasted with the tension of their first meetings, months ago. "I need to ask you something," Henry said when dessert arrived. "What is it?" "How would you feel if I officially introduced you as my girlfriend at Lily's birthday party?" The question caught Claire by surprise. Until then, they had kept the relationship discreet, almost secret. Only Lily, Maria, and Mrs. Jenkins knew the romantic nature of their meetings. "Are you sure you're ready for that?" "People will talk." "Let them talk. I'm tired of living for other people's approval. For years, I was the dedicated widower. Before that, I was the perfect husband. Always a role, always an expectation to meet." He took her hands in his. "For the first time, I just want to be myself. A man who found a second chance at happiness. A father who wants to see his daughter grow up in an environment of love and truth." Claire felt her heart race. "Your family, your parents, your in-laws. How will they react?" "My parents have long figured out what's happening. My mother practically pushes me into your arms at every opportunity." He chuckled. "As for Eliza and Robert, if she came to meet you personally, it's because they are, at the very least, accepting the idea. Still, it's a big step. It's the right step, at the right time." Claire smiled, feeling a mix of excitement and anxiety. "Then all right, I will officially be introduced as the girlfriend of the head of Thompson Tech. I can already see the headlines in the social columns." "What headlines?" "Baker wins Heart of Tech CEO with irresistible sweets," she joked. "It wasn't your sweets that won me over," Henry said, suddenly serious. "It was your integrity, your compassion, your strength." Those words touched Claire deeply. It was the first time she felt genuinely valued, not for her resemblance to Camille, but for who she was. 2 weeks later, the Thompsons' mansion was decorated again for Lily's birthday. The theme chosen by the girl, now 4 years old, was Magical Bakery, a clear tribute to Claire. The party would be smaller than the previous years, just close family and a few intimate friends. Lily had insisted she wanted something more special and less noisy. Eliza and Robert Hayes arrived early, bringing gifts from Portugal. Despite initial apprehension, the meeting between Claire and Camille's parents was cordial. Robert, a man of few words, limited himself to a firm handshake and an appraising look. "Lily won't stop talking about you," he finally commented. "She says you make the best cakes in the world." "She's biased," Claire replied, smiling. "I'm her #1 fan." Susan and George Thompson, Henry's parents, were even warmer. Susan hugged Claire effusively. "Finally, my son had the courage to make official what we all already knew," the woman said with a knowing smile. "It was about time." Lily was radiant in her baker's dress, a miniature of the uniform Claire wore at the shop, specially tailored for the occasion. She ran back and forth, showing the guests the small baking kit she had received, complete with molds, sprinkles, and harmless ingredients. "I'm going to make cakes like Claire when I grow up," she announced to everyone proudly. The party went on quietly until the moment to cut the cake, an elaborate creation from the Sugar Blossom Bakery, representing a fairy tale castle made of colorful sweets. It was then that Lily made the announcement that silenced everyone. "Before I blow out the candles, I want to say something important," the girl declared with all the seriousness of her 4 years. "Thank you, everyone, for coming to my party. Thank you, Grandma Eliza and Grandpa Robert, for coming so far. And thank you, Daddy and Claire, for being my best friends in the world." The girl paused, looking at Claire with her large, expressive eyes, so similar to her father's. "I know Claire isn't my mommy from heaven. My mommy from heaven is up there, looking out for me like a little star. But Claire is like a second mommy here on earth, and I love her too." The silence that followed that declaration was charged with emotion. Claire felt warm tears streaming down her face. Henry hugged his daughter, visibly moved, and surprisingly, it was Eliza who broke the silence. "You are very lucky, Lily," the grandmother said, her voice slightly choked. "Many people only have one love in their life. You have the love of two mothers, one watching over you from heaven and one watching over you here." Robert coughed, masking his own emotion. Susan wiped away tears without any discretion, and George, always reserved, surprised everyone by walking up to Claire and giving her a paternal kiss on the forehead. "Welcome to the family, my dear," he said simply. Lily, oblivious to the impact of her words, was already focused back on the cake. "Can I blow out the candles now?" Everyone laughed, easing the emotional tension of the moment. The girl closed her eyes, made her silent wish, and blew with all her might. Later, when most of the guests had left, Claire found Eliza alone on the porch, contemplating the sea. "May I join you?" she asked. The older woman nodded. "Lily is an extraordinary child." "She is," Claire agreed. "She has a huge heart, like her mother." Eliza turned to face her. "You know, when I first heard about you, through Henry, I was furious. I thought it was an attempt to erase Camille, to replace her. I know. I see that now." Eliza sighed. "Camille was unique. No one can ever replace her. But that doesn't mean there's no room for new people, new loves. You are very wise. It's not wisdom. It's survival. I learned that clinging to the past only brings more pain. Camille would have wanted Henry to move on, for Lily to be happy." Eliza paused, choosing her words. "And seeing you all today, the way you look at my granddaughter, the way you care for her, I know Camille would approve." Those words, coming from Camille's mother, were the validation Claire had never expected to receive. She felt her chest warm with gratitude. "Thank you. That means a lot to me. Don't thank me. Just promise one thing." "What?" "Promise that you will always talk about Camille to Lily, that you will help keep her memory alive, that my daughter will not be forgotten. I promise." And Claire spoke with absolute sincerity. "Lily will always know who her mother was and how much she loved her." Eliza nodded, satisfied. "Then we understand each other." That same night, after Lily fell asleep and Henry's parents retired to the guest room, he found Claire on the beach in front of the house. She had taken off her shoes and was walking in the sand, feeling the night breeze. "I thought you were going to sleep," he commented, joining her. "I needed to organize my thoughts. It was an intense day. Very intense." He intertwined his fingers with hers. "Are you all right?" "I am. Better than I expected, actually. Your family, Camille's family, everyone was so welcoming. They realize what I've known for a long time, that you are special." They walked in silence for a few minutes, just listening to the sound of the waves breaking on the sand. "Henry," Claire began hesitantly, "I think we're ready for the next step, which would be, I want to spend more time here. With you and Lily." His face lit up. "Are you talking about—" "I'm not proposing we get married, not yet," she hastened to clarify. "But maybe I can spend more than just the weekends. Maybe a few days during the week as well. That would be wonderful." I would have to reorganize the bakery, hire more people, maybe promote Mrs. Jenkins to manager. Henry laughed at the way she was already planning every detail. We can figure that out. The important thing is that you want to be more present. I do. She stopped walking, turning to face him. These months have been the strangest, but also the richest of my life. I never imagined I could feel so much for someone I met under such unusual circumstances. Life rarely follows the script we imagine, Henry philosophized. Sometimes the most unexpected detours lead us exactly to where we were meant to be. He pulled her closer, embracing her. I have something for you, he said, pulling a small box from his pocket. For a moment, Claire's heart stopped, thinking it might be an engagement ring. But when the box opened, it revealed a delicate gold chain with a pendant shaped like a bakery. It's beautiful, she exclaimed, relieved and delighted at the same time. I had it custom made for you, to symbolize what initially brought us together. As Henry put the necklace on her neck, Claire couldn't help but reflect on the strange and convoluted path life had taken. From an absurd proposal, born of desperation, something genuine and precious had emerged. Do you know what Lily asked me today before bed? Henry commented. What? If you were going to live with us one day. She said she really wanted to have you here every morning to make pancakes. Claire chuckled. And what did you say to her? I said that's something only time can answer, but that you have your own home, your own life, but maybe one day, if we all wanted it very much, we could live together as a family. Family. The word echoed in Claire's mind, conjuring images of her own childhood, her mother's absence, her loving but busy father, the grandmother who raised her and taught her the baking trade. You are already my family, she declared, with a certainty that surprised herself. A family I chose, and one that, by some miracle, chose me back. Under the stars of Charleston, with the ocean as a witness, they sealed that declaration with a kiss that carried promises of a future that, though uncertain, would be built on the most solid foundations that existed: truth, acceptance, and love. 2 years passed since that night on the beach. Claire's life had completely transformed. The Sugar Blossom Bakery was thriving under Mrs. Jenkins' efficient management, while Claire divided her time between the business and the family life she had built with the Thompsons. 6 months after Lily's 4th birthday, Claire officially moved into the seaside mansion. At first, she insisted on keeping her own room so as not to confuse the girl. But Lily, with her childlike wisdom, saw no problem when Claire eventually began to share the room with Henry. You love each other, the girl declared simply. That's how it should be. The official proposal came during a trip to the Caribbean on their first dating anniversary. Henry had prepared a sunset picnic on a secluded beach, complete with champagne, strawberries, and a sapphire ring that perfectly complemented Claire's blue eyes. I want to build an entire life by your side, he had said, kneeling in the sand. Not because you remind me of someone from the past, but because you are my present and my future. The wedding was an intimate ceremony held in the mansion's garden. Lily, then nearly 5 years old, was the proudest flower girl imaginable. Eliza and Robert came from Europe, bringing a silver locket that had belonged to the Hayes family for generations. Camille would have wanted you to have it, Eliza had said, placing the locket in Claire's hands. On that occasion, Claire couldn't hold back the tears. The final acceptance, the blessing of Camille's family, meant more than any material gift could. Married life proved to be more natural than Claire expected. There were challenges, of course. Juggling the bakery routines with family responsibilities, navigating the complexities of being a stepmother, facing occasional curious or judgmental glances from society. But a sense of purpose, of belonging prevailed, making every obstacle easier to overcome. And then, 6 months after the wedding, came the news that would change everything again. Claire was pregnant. Lily's reaction was pure joy. I'm going to have a little brother, she announced to everyone she met, whether they were family, friends, or complete strangers at the grocery store. For Henry, the happiness came with a dose of apprehension. Camille's pregnancy had been marked by complications from the start. For weeks, he watched Claire with vigilant eyes, insisting that she rest more, eat better, consult the best doctors. I'm pregnant, not sick, she joked, though she perfectly understood the fear behind the overprotection. The pregnancy progressed without complications. When they found out it would be a boy, Lily declared that she already knew the perfect name. "We're going to name him Gabriel," the girl announced, with the absolute certainty only children possess. "Because he'll be an angel who came to complete our family." Henry and Claire exchanged emotional looks. The name wasn't on the list they had considered, but somehow it felt perfect. And so, on a sunny March morning, Gabriel Adams Thompson was born, a healthy baby boy with dark hair and intensely blue eyes like his mother's. Now, 6 months after her son's birth, Claire watched her small world from the mansion's terrace. Lily, now newly 6 years old, was playing in the garden, chasing a kite Henry was flying. Gabriel slept peacefully in the portable bassinet beside her, shielded from the sun by a canopy. The phone rang, interrupting her thoughts. "Hello, the Sugar Blossom Bakery, Mrs. Jenkins speaking." "Hi, Mrs. Jenkins, it's Claire. Oh dear, I was just about to call. I had a wonderful idea for that wedding next week. How about a 4-tiered cake with sugar flowers cascading like a waterfall?" Claire smiled. Even with the distance and new responsibilities, her heart still beat strongly for the bakery she had inherited from her grandmother. "That sounds perfect. You can start preparing the molds. I'll stop by tomorrow to discuss the details." After hanging up, she turned her attention back to the scene in the garden. Henry had now sat on the grass, with Lily snuggled in his lap, both watching the kite dancing freely in the sky. It was incredible how life could change in so little time. 3 years ago, she was a lonely baker, dedicated only to work, with no great personal prospects. Now she was a wife, a mother of 2 children, and her bakery was thriving like never before. "What are you thinking about?" Henry's voice surprised her. He had come up to the terrace without her noticing, with Lily still in his lap. "About how lucky we are," she replied sincerely. "May I see Gabriel?" Lily asked, approaching the bassinet. "I promise not to wake him up." The girl leaned over her little brother, watching him with admiration. "He's so tiny," she whispered. "And he looks so much like you, Claire." "You think so?" The stepmother smiled. "I see a lot of your dad in him." "The eyes are yours," Lily affirmed with conviction. "Blue like the sea." Henry hugged Claire from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. "She's right. Our son has your eyes." He paused meaningfully before adding, "And your huge heart. I hope." Lily turned her attention back to a book she had brought with her, sitting in a nearby chair. "Do you remember the day we met?" Henry asked softly, just for Claire to hear. "How could I forget? You walked into my bakery, looked at me like I was a ghost, and then made me the most absurd proposal I've ever heard in my life." They both laughed, but there was a note of nostalgia in that laugh. "Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if you had simply kicked me out of the bakery that day. If you had listened to the voice of reason instead of following your heart. You probably would have found another woman who looked like Camille," she teased. "Maybe an actress or a model." "Impossible." He turned her to face him. "There is no one like you, Claire Thompson." The use of her new last name still sent a strange, pleasant tingle through Claire. It was the confirmation that she belonged there, that this extraordinary life was truly hers. Gabriel chose that moment to wake up, announcing himself with small grumbles that soon threatened to turn into a cry. Claire picked him up, gently rocking him. "I think someone's hungry," she commented, settling in to breastfeed him. Lily approached, watching the process with fascination. "He drinks really fast," she commented. "That's because he's a strong, healthy boy," Henry explained, stroking his son's head. A gentle breeze blew from the sea, bringing with it the characteristic scent of salt air. On the horizon, the sky began to tinge with orange tones, announcing one of those spectacular sunsets the area was famous for. "Can I ask you something?" Lily looked at Claire with a serious expression that didn't match her 6 years. "Of course, sweetie. Do you think my mommy from heaven can see Gabriel? Does she know we have a big, happy family now?" The question caught Claire by surprise. Although they spoke openly about Camille, Lily rarely mentioned her so directly. "I'm sure she does," she replied, choosing her words carefully. "Your mother will always be watching over you, no matter where she is." "Sometimes I talk to her before bed," the girl confessed. "I tell her about school, about you, about Gabriel." "That's very sweet, Lily. Yesterday I told her I'm very lucky, because some kids only have one mother, but I have 2, one in heaven and one here on earth." Claire felt her eyes well up. Even after so much time, moments like this still moved her deeply. "I'm the lucky one for having you in my life." Lily smiled, satisfied, and returned her attention to her brother. Can I hold him when he's done feeding? I know how to hold him just right now. Of course you can. Henry watched the scene with a mix of pride and gratitude. His family, not the one he planned to have, but the one fate, in its infinite wisdom, had granted him. I'm going to prepare a snack for us, he announced, heading to the kitchen. How about those cheddar biscuits Claire taught Maria to make? Yes! Lily clapped her hands, enthusiastic. When she finished feeding Gabriel, Claire carefully handed him to Lily, who sat in a chair with the baby in her arms. The girl immediately began to sing a soft lullaby that Claire recognized as one Eliza often sang. Taking advantage of the moment of quiet, she walked to the terrace railing, watching the sea that stretched out infinitely before her. Life was truly surprising. 3 years ago, she never could have imagined being where she was now. Her cell phone rang again. It was a text from Eliza. How is my grandson? We miss you. We've already bought tickets for Christmas. I can't wait to hug you all. Claire smiled, quickly typing a reply and attaching a recent photo of Gabriel she had taken that morning. It was incredible how Eliza and Robert had become a constant and loving presence in their lives, visiting at least 3 times a year. Henry returned with a tray of still warm cheddar biscuits and a pitcher of passion fruit juice. The delicious aroma made Lily lift her nose like a small sniffing puppy. Can I eat now, please? First hand your brother over to Claire, Henry instructed. We don't want him ending up covered in crumbs. As the family shared that simple snack on the terrace, with the setting sun painting the sky pink and gold, Claire was overcome by an overwhelming sense of completeness. It wasn't a perfect happiness. She knew life would always bring challenges, but it was a real happiness, built on solid foundations of truth and acceptance. What are you thinking about? Henry asked, noticing her distant gaze. About how we got here, about how it all started in such an improbable way. He nodded, understanding. An impossible request that turned into the miracle of our lives. Exactly. Lily, who had been focused on her biscuit, suddenly asked, What impossible request? Henry and Claire exchanged glances, uncertain about how to explain that complex story to a 6-year-old. One day, when you're older, we'll tell you the whole story, Henry promised. But that's not fair. I want to know now. Claire laughed at the girl's indignant expression. It's a long story, Lily, about how your dad and I met and how you helped us find happiness. I helped? The girl seemed intrigued. More than you can imagine, Henry confirmed. It was your huge heart that showed us the way. Lily seemed satisfied with that partial answer. I knew it! It was written in the stars. 3 minutes are up, Henry reminded her gently. Time to brush your teeth and go to bed. Can I give Gabriel a goodnight kiss? Of course you can. The girl approached carefully and placed a soft kiss on her little brother's forehead. Good night, Gabe. Dream of angels like you. Then she kissed Claire on the cheek. Good night, Mom. It was the first time Lily had called her that. Simply, Mom, without qualifiers like second or on Earth. Claire felt her heart expand in a way she didn't know was possible. Good night, my love. Henry took his daughter inside, leaving Claire alone with Gabriel on the terrace. She looked at the sleeping baby in her arms. So small, so perfect, so full of possibilities. Your dad is right, you know, she whispered to her son. It all started with an impossible request, and it turned into the miracle of our lives. Gabriel responded with a small sigh in his deep sleep. In the sky, a star shone more brightly, as if winking in agreement. And in that moment, under the starry sky of Charleston, rocking her son in her arms while waiting for her husband to return and thinking of the extraordinary girl she now called her daughter, Claire knew with a certainty that came from the depths of her being that she was exactly where she was supposed to be. The path had been winding, unusual, sometimes painful. But fate, if such a thing existed, had surprising ways of guiding people precisely to where they needed to be. An impossible request that had turned into the miracle of their lives. Henry returned to the terrace, sitting down beside her and putting his arm around her shoulders. Lily fell asleep instantly, he commented. I didn't even need to tell a story today. She had an emotionally full day. They sat in silence for a few minutes, just enjoying each other's presence and the son who slept peacefully. Do you know what she told me before she fell asleep? Henry commented. What? That now we are a complete family. You, me, her, Gabriel. and Mommy from heaven who watches over all of us. Claire smiled, feeling a deep peace. She's right. It's an unusual family, but perfect in its own way. Henry kissed her gently. Thank you. For what? For stepping into that madness 3 years ago. For trusting me, even when I didn't trust myself. For loving my daughter as if she were your own. For giving me a second chance at happiness. Thank you, Claire replied sincerely. For walking into my bakery that day. For showing me that life is much richer, much more complex, and much more beautiful than I ever imagined. As the stars twinkled in the Charleston sky, the couple remained embraced, contemplating their sleeping son and the future they were building together. A future born from the most improbable of encounters and the most impossible of requests. And somewhere, perhaps on one of the brightest stars in that sky, a young mother smiled, satisfied to know that her family was, finally, at peace. The end, dear listeners. We hope the story of Claire, Henry, and Lily has touched your hearts. This family's journey shows us how true love can emerge from the most unexpected situations, and how compassion can transform lives. To continue enjoying emotional stories like this, we've prepared a special playlist with equally captivating narratives. Find it here by clicking on the left. If this story stirred your emotions, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and leave a like on this video. Every day we bring new stories that explore the complexity of life and the beauty of human feelings. Share your impressions in the comments. We love reading your reactions and knowing which moments touched your heart the most. And don't miss our upcoming content, where we will continue to explore the wonderful surprises that fate has in store for us. Until the next story,